He is a special talent. Joining me now is National Senator M.Canavan. So, Matt, failure to get a meeting with Donald Trump is now a sign of just how well the relationship is going. Are you buying this spin?
It's all getting a little embarrassing, and it is a bit comical, but it's also, of course, a bit concerning for our country. I note the Prime Minister's in New York. I was thinking maybe he should take a leaf out of Jerry Seinfeld's book, and there's an episode there where he's trying to meet a girl he had met at dinner, and he just staked out her office building, waited near the elevator to try and grab her. Maybe Albo needs to do the same thing here, just stake out the president, try and shake his hand at some point. But I just cannot believe that we can't get a meeting. I mean, the President of the United States has met with the leaders of Guinea, of Liberia, of Senegal. These are all meetings he's had in the second term just in the past year. I'm sure he would meet the leader of Australia, one of America's closest allies, if the Prime Minister really wanted to. It seems to me here that the only explanation for a lack of a meeting is because the Prime Minister doesn't want to have a meeting. I think he's running scared here. He's a big scaredy cat of Donald Trump and is worried what a meeting might look like, or what it might have in it in terms of criticism from the President. So he's running away. And if our Prime Minister, our leader, can't even have a meeting with somebody, how can he properly defend our nation's interests?
Indeed, and I'll talk to Sean Spicer a little later in the program, who's got some insights from the US side of things on this particular issue. The Australian Human Rights Commission, Matt, has told a Senate committee that the government should regulate against false criticism of climate change ideology. They've told the Senate, and I'm quoting, "False narratives on climate change distort public understanding, erode trust in science and institutions, and delay urgent climate action." Matt, this would be hilarious if I didn't think the Albanese government would take it seriously.
Look, nothing says you're winning an argument by seeking to criminalise the points of view that your opponents are making, which seems to be the suggestion here. Although, if you take literally what they just said, maybe there is some merit, and I just wasn't clear whether this proposed misinformation law was going to apply equally. Does it also apply to people out there who are exaggerating the impacts of climate change? Would they also fall foul of misinformation, or is this just a one-sided proposal to, as I say, silence critics of a preferred narrative? Because if it is both-sided, I mean, there are plenty of people exaggerating things, and in my view, those exaggerations do much more than myself or anyone else to undermine confidence in taking action on climate change. I mean, just last week you had the absurd situation of the government issue a report which cherry-picked data from a scientific paper about the potential for people to die from heat due to global warming. They scared us by saying there was a 444% increase then, when in fact, when you went to the actual paper, there were more lives saved from fewer cold deaths from cold because of global warming than there were an increase in heat deaths. And that paper just completely ignored that. So if we want to do misinformation, I don't know. I reckon on the balance here, there's a hell of a lot more misinformation from these green activist groups who continue to propagate a scare campaign, a doomsday campaign, that is nowhere near connected to the actual science when you read it.
M.Canavan, does it scare you as much as it scares me that our Human Rights Commission is advocating for suppression of speech? Well, look, it doesn't shock me. It's perfectly consistent with the conduct of this organisation for a long time. Remember, we had a chair there a while back that was wanting to silence criticism of different views. I can't even remember her name now, sorry. But, yeah, it is a fraudulent organisation at the best of times. It's a complete waste of taxpayer dollars, and this is such an absurd suggestion. It should just be completely dismissed, as you say. It would be laughable, except for the fact that the Albanese government hasn't dismissed this. They've set up this Senate inquiry with the Greens, and they need to explain what they're trying to actually do here, because we do live in a free, or we have lived in a free and open society. What we should be allowed to do is have all our different points of view. And if you've got a better point of view, you'll win. You'll win in the marketplace ideas. But what this does belie, this attempt belies, is the fact that I think they're losing this debate. They've continued to over-exaggerate. People like Tim Flannery saying our dams would never be full. then they do. That does much more damage to confidence in the science than anyone putting a slightly different view. And of course, they've also lost the debate on the economics because they promised that they would lower our power bills. The Prime Minister, as you just reminded us, infamously promised a $275 cut, and that hasn't happened. And so that's why they're feeling the heat. It's not misinformation, it's their inability to deliver on their promises.
Of course, the Human Rights Commission were nowhere to be seen during COVID when our rights were being trampled. I think abolishing the Human Rights Commission would be a great thing for the Coalition to take to the next election. Just an idea for Susan Lee while she's trying to work out what she stands for. Let me give you an example of why it's so dangerous for governments to ban you from criticising policy. Here's a typical government advertisement from just a couple of years ago. Some of the viewers will remember this. Have a look.
Amazing to see you, man. How's it going?
What? Are we shaking hands now?
COVID-19 is not over yet. It's up to each of us to protect all of us.
Well, former Victoria Chief Health Officer Brett Sutton has come out today and admitted some of the health orders made during the pandemic, such as that one, were useless and based entirely on guesswork. Now, Matt, we all knew these rules were ridiculous, but we were demonised, or worse, if we dared to say so.
Well, look, some of us knew that, but as you say, people were silenced there. Media wouldn't conduct proper scrutiny. Some elements of our media, present company excluded, wouldn't conduct proper scrutiny of government decisions. They became mouthpieces for government scare campaigns, and it's all come out now. This, to me, underlines why we still need a Royal Commission into COVID. It is an absolute outrage that with all of the restrictions, with all of the damage that was done to small businesses, to the learning of children in our schools, people's mental health, all of that damage has been done, and we haven't had a Royal Commission into it. The country had the guts to have a Royal Commission into the Spanish flu 100 years ago. But this time there's been a complete whitewashing of all the government decisions that were made at that time. And this admission here from the Chief Health Officer here, of Victoria, one of the key lieutenants of the COVID police force that rolled out these restrictions, this admission that he was often making it up, that should be grounds for a Royal Commission, if nothing else. It was already one justified, but now that this admission has been made, it is not too late to have justice for those people who have been harmed by a Royal Commission, and for all of us to have some degree of closure about what happened and how we can make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, I don't think there's any closure until the people making these decisions, who by their own admission knew they weren't based on anything tangible, are held to account. I'm not sure they ever will be. M.Canavan, thank you so much for